What's up everybody, hope you're having an amazing day so far. I'm your host Phil, and today's video is something super special for me which I wanted to do since a long time. We're gonna check out this amplifier over there. That is one of my absolute favorite amplifiers in the world, the Gallien Krueger 250ML. Let's first roll the intro clip, then talk about why this is one of my favorite amplifiers and check out what it sounds like. Thank you everybody for tuning in today's video. I highly appreciate it. Yeah, today's video, as I said before, we're going to check out the Gallien Krueger 250ML. I'm not going to take it now and show it up into the camera. Instead, we're going to have some pictures going on over here because this is already cabled up and ready to go when we're doing the demo. A little bit of a backstory behind this amplifier. If you couldn't already tell by the shirt which I'm wearing today for today's video, I am a huge Iron Maiden fan. Iron Maiden is my absolutely favorite band, and one of their best albums in my personal opinion is Somewhere in Time. I love Somewhere in Time. The songs are awesome, the tone is awesome, everything. I love the entire vibe of the album. Now, Somewhere in Time was, from what I, recognized later on, because of course obviously the album has been released before I was actually born, was quite controversial because of the use of synthesizers, of the use of, that 80s, typical 80s sound with a lot of chords, with a lot of delay. That was something which was kind of an, breaking up with traditions which Iron Maiden have themselves set up in the albums before. So they always went with a relatively dry, crunchy tone, mainly coming from Marshall full stacks, from what I understand, like in JCM 800, into basically greenback speakers, and then boosted by a tube screamer. They went from that sound aesthetic to a totally different thing, that vibey, chorusy, spacey sound. And a huge part of that actually was this small amplifier over here. So, allegedly, what happened during the Power Slave Tour, or the World Slavery Tour as they called it, was that their equipment has been stolen, I think somewhere in the mids of the US, and they were basically left with no equipment at all, and they had to get some amplifiers very, very quickly in order to continue on to the tour. And that's where Adrian Smith and Dave Murray both kind of fell in love with the Gallien Krueger portfolio, namely the 250ML. And they used that on the Somewhere in Time record. They then went on later on Seventh Son of a Seventh Son to use the, I think, 2000 CPL it's called. It's basically a larger unit, but has a very similar tonal characteristic, and they also brought that amplifier with on tour. And this amplifier, I'm telling you right now, is the absolute holy grail when it comes to the Somewhere in Time tone. But not only the epiphanal, at least to me, epiphanal sound of Somewhere in Time has been created with this small little masterpiece over here. A lot of 80s albums which people love and cherish to this day. I think actually some Def Leppard albums actually are using the Gallien Krueger 250ML, and one very unexpected contestant for that also used this amplifier, namely Scream Bloody Gore from Death. Hey, Phil from the future here. Through a little bit of research, which I could have honestly have done before I actually shot the video, I found out that it was not Scream Bloody Gore where they used allegedly the Gallien Krueger 250ML, but instead the album Human. So it seems that on Scream Bloody Gore they either went for a JCM 800 boosted by an SD1 or a Soldano. It's not actually that clear, there's a lot of speculation around that, but for the Human album it seemed that they really used the 250ML. That's why in the clip which you're about to hear, there's going to be a reference to the Human album, but in the video I'm still referring to Scream Bloody Gore because I'm just a stupid idiot who forgot to do his research properly before that. So sorry for that, let's continue with the video. Chuck Schuldiner actually is very known to use this together with an X2N pickup in his guitar. So what I'm going to do in today's video, we're going to actually run for two different tonal characteristics of this amplifier. We're first going to explore kind of, let's say, the Maiden vibe, with that spacey, chorusy 80s type of sound. And then afterwards, I got actually a guitar equipped with an X2N. We're going to go after more of that Scream Bloody Gore, sharp death metal sound which Def has actually started to create. So without further ado, let's roll to the other scene where I got the guitar, where I'm plugged into the amp, and listen to what this sounds like. Alright, let's get to the segment where we're actually checking out the video. But before we're gonna do that, I want to first give a huge shout out to OpSpot, who have sent me two cameras to check out. One of them definitely for a review and one of them first to check out, and then we're going to decide upon if I'm going to make a review or not. So I really like what I'm seeing over here. So it's super easy through the gimbal stuff that I can show you a little bit around, show what kind of equipment and signal chain we got over here. But I want to hear from you, the viewer, if that's something which you are enjoying so far, or if you maybe hate the gimbal stuff, you know, and you want to rather have like a fixed camera position or something. Let me know down below in the comments. And of course, a link to OpSpot as a thank you to their products down below. Okay, signal chain wise, what we got over here is my Phoenix SM30, which is loaded with a Guitar Fetish Crunchy Pat, I believe it is. The Crunchy Pat is basically known as a poor man's JB. And yeah, from what I can tell, you know, the experience which I had with JBs, this sounds fairly similar, gets in that ballpark. That then goes over here through this setup over here, which consists of the Boss ST1, which is currently disengaged. This is going to be later important for the section where we're going to try to get a def types tone. We got the Maxon OD808 because I know that Iron Maiden have used the OD808 in tandem with the 250ML on Somewhere in Time. And then, of course, we got the 250ML, which then goes out via 2 speaker cables to this section over here. So, and here we got my Marshall 1960 AV with 2 microphones, the Shure SM57 and the SE Electronics V7X, and also, just to get a little bit more of a rumble, the RB500 ribbon microphone from T-Bone. So, and this is exactly why I like the gimbal setup so far. I don't have to do additional videos and photos and stuff like that. I can show you that on the fly. So, without further ado, let me first show the tone which I got dialed in for Iron Maiden type tones, and then we're gonna check out what I set up and what this amplifier is capable of doing. I love this tone so much. Man, I really fall instantly in love each and every time I am playing through the setup. Okay, let's check out what we got over here. Let's disengage the pedal for that. So we're mainly going to focus on the channel B, which is the high gain channel. However, let me grab a pen or something, because as you can see, this amplifier has seen better days, and I really have to go in there and press this over here. So I'm going to disengage the stereo effects. The normal setup is we got 2 channels, A and B. B is being the high gain channel, and on the the clean channel, I would call it, like channel A, we got a compression and a gain knob. The gain knob does rarely anything or barely anything, and both of them are sharing this EQ section, which consists of an 4-band EQ, which is really working well. I'm not that sure if the frequencies are my favorite thing, like the choice of frequencies, but you know, it is what it is. Okay. Whoa, that hurts in my ear. Sorry for that. So let me turn that down a little bit. So the clean channel is very unspectacular, I would say. So it's not that special at all. Maybe if you crank in the comp a little bit, there we go. You know, like it's a very clean tone, I must say. So I like that. Let's go ahead and press in the gain knob. Hang on. There we go. So this is a little bit of a crunchy setup. So let's go back to the clean. Now, all of the magic of this amplifier, in my opinion, lies in the stereo effect section over here, where we got an echo and a chorus. Let's engage those two. Now, so pretty cool stuff, but something which I rarely use, to be honest. So let's go ahead and actually go into channel B, where all of the magic is lying. Now, on channel B, you only have this gain knob and the volume knob. So the gain button. So you can set it up to low gain or high gain, basically. Nothing else. You don't have a gain dial like on regular amplifiers. But to me personally, having the gain pushed in and then boosted is fairly enough gain, which I could ask for. But on itself, it's a little bit lacking. So let's go ahead, let's keep the EQ settings as they are right now with that pretty dry setup and the gain disengaged. We currently have none of the boosts engaged. You already can hear that this is pretty farty sounding in my personal opinion. So this is not necessarily what I would deem like a very pleasant sound. If we go and push in the gain, we still are within that territory where I would say, nah, we're still not there yet. Especially on those lower notes, we are getting a little bit, you know, of a muffling, farting out of the sound. Now comes the EQ section where we could try to counteract that. However, we cannot really dial that completely out. We still are left with this very dry, unresponsive feel. So let's check out the range of the different knobs. So somewhere around this over here is the ballpark sound, which I would go for. And, you know, like mild changes moving from there onward, you know, left and right. So let's now go ahead and boost this with the Tube Screamer. It's substantially being tightened up by the Tube Screamer, which I really like. You could now go ahead and take the 120 hertz a little bit further, you know, in order to crank it up a little bit more. But it now has like a very pleasant sound to me personally, or let's say more of a pleasant feel to me. I could easily use this over here now as a main tone. I could now go ahead, scoop the mids a little bit more, give it a little bit more of that, you know, at times annoying 8 kilohertz, 2 kilohertz. And now I would be greeted with an ultra tight, old school, you know, low budget thrash tone, which has its own charm. I really like this sound, yeah. But of course, you know, for me personally, the reason why I bought this amplifier is the Summer in Time magic. So let's go back to that kind of tone over here and engage the stereo effects once again. I just love this chorus sound. I just love it. I just love it. Listen to how close this is to the Summer in Time sound. All right, I totally butchered that solo, but you know, it's all about the tone of this amplifier. And this is really, really spectacular. Let's move over to the next section where we're trying to dial in something very akin to Death's Scream Bloody Gore. All right, I now got another guitar over here. This is also actually in Phoenix SM30. However, this Phoenix SM30 is loaded with a DiMarzio X2N, which is the same pickup which is built into Chuck Schuldiner signature guitar. This sounds pretty cool. This is a very, very high output, aggressive pickup. And I got a different setup now going. I am now going actually into the Boss SD1 into the 250ML. Everything else is staying the same. And as you can see, I already went for that very mid-scooped tone. And with the stereo effects disengaged, this should be very similar to what Chuck Schuldiner has set up for the Scream Bloody Gore album. So let's see what that sounds like. And I must say that using the X2N into this setup with the Boss SD1, these two components are completely changing the game overall. So I initially bought this for the Iron Maiden sound, but you know, having this type of sound is a nice extra. And I love the way it sounds when I'm doing that chugs. Awesome, awesome amplifier. I bought this for kind of 350 euros, somewhere around that ballpark, and I could not be happier with what I'm getting out of this. Now, I must say, having such an exotic amplifier without having anybody else out there, you know, having the capability to witness what this amplifier sounds like and making a demo out of it is kind of pointless. So I thought to myself, I'm gonna make 2 neural amp modeler profiles, which you can download on Tone 3000 for absolutely free. Link's going to be in the description down below. And yeah, I basically did one capture, which is the Boss SD1 boosting the 250ml, which is the def preset. I called it over here def. And then I got the other preset, which is the Tube Screamer boosting the 250ml with a little bit different EQ settings, like I've shown in the video before, and that is the Maiden preset. So let's first walk through the def preset. Let me play a few riffs out over here. I'm gonna add some impulse responses into that pack as well, which are made with my Marshall 1960. So it should be fairly similar to the tone which I got, you know, out of the recording when playing through that. So let's go ahead. And then we have the Maiden sound. Now, note that the Maiden sound does not contain any effects over here, so you don't have the echo or the chorus in there, so it's the dry sound. Let me go grab the other guitar for that. So you might have to go ahead and add some modulation and some reverb like I have done over here. Although, to be very honest with you, it doesn't come close to the thickness and complexity of the analog chorus of that amplifier over here. I love this amplifier, and there's nothing else for me really to say about this. This over here is one of the best amp purchases which I have ever done. I was a little bit, fearful at the beginning, like, oh, will I actually use it? Will this be not some kind of one-trick pony, which is then just collecting dust? Kind of it is, but every time I plug this in and kind of revisit it, I'm super happy that I bought this. This is really my favorite album tone recorded ever. This lush, thick, complex chorus tone. I love it so much, and it works so well, using the Tube Screamer, or actually the def tone, which I kind of dialed in, really surprised me, like using the X2N, getting that super mid-scooped, tight thrash tone, really sounds good. And I had a blast playing in the last 2 days where I was trying a little bit out over here. So I hope that you guys out there are enjoying the NAMM profiles, which are in the description, downloadable for absolutely free. If you want to support me, I got a coffee page where I sell a few packs. So if you want to support me, you can go purchase one of those packs out there. But these, like these NAMM profiles, I want to give them out for completely free because I think this amplifier does not justifies a full pack, and it's just a small gesture that you guys are supporting me out on this channel over here, and I'm really thankful for that. So with that out of the way, go ahead, go do some shredding, do some riffing with those NAMM profiles, and yeah, talk to you very soon in the next video. Until then, keep it metal.